Hey folks, welcome to Haggis Hunting, where we do a deep dive on a particular topic of interest in the Highlandware and Celtic Gaelic culture community. And I'm Eric.
I'm Rocky.
And I'm Allie.
And Allie is here as our special guest. We're going to today talk about being an entrepreneur and an independent creator in this community, in this world, and what we all do to make it work for us.
Yep. For those who do not know who you are Allie the Piper. Where can they find out about you?
I have indeed heard that I am Allie the Piper, to be confirmed. But I am on the social medias, the various different platforms. Piper.Allie, A-L-L-Y is my name. Piper is the title. And yeah, I make bagpipe content on the social medias.
Nice. So you're on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere. Just look up Piper Allie.
Anywhere, yeah. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are my main four. My quad.
Cool.
Wouldn't bagpipe content just kind of be like hot, damp air? I mean, you don't mean literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not literally bagpipe content.
Mm-hmm.
Not the contents of bagpipes.
Got it.
Bagpipe related
so
content.
No mold, none of that black lung stuff.
Oh,
that they
no.
talk about.
Oh, man. We could even... That's a whole podcast episode right there. Honestly.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But you are a musician. You've been doing this for how long?
I've been doing music since I was a teeny tiny human.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been doing social media content creation and music professionally through that since 2020.
Okay, so you're right in the zone of like what's happening with the current media world and what you have to do. I mean, we've been doing our stuff for 8 years,
yeah,
like that. And so we've had to retool what we do and change what we do frequently.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of just hit the ground running. You're of that generation where
I'm a cusper. I'm a cusper. Please, I am on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't think I know that term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we call it a zillennial.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
That I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not cusper.
Cusper.
Cusper sounds like you're working in like a chicken farm in Georgia, like,
Right.
Yeah, I gotta send
Job
this over
title.
to the cuspers.
Yeah.
Get this out
It's
before
pretty
morning.
similar too.
Okay.
In definition to that.
Yeah, because
so.
social media is kind of like plucking chickens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fair.
So with that said, since we're already joking about it, what do you guys think about social media in the macro? Does it do more harm than good? And if there are good things to it, what are they? And if there are bad things to it, what are they? And how does it all come out in the wash?
Sure. I think it. What I've noticed is it exposes who you are. There's a lot more keyboard warrior types. You're thinking more about yourself and your interaction with the world versus the other side of the equation. There's a lot of people who will say things on social media that they wouldn't say in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it exposes negativity in that way. But on the other side of it, there's a lot of good that comes out of technology, building communities, supporting each other. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not Patreon, but when you have a GoFundMe kind of thing, for people who have special needs or someone just been a horrible accident or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's good and bad, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think a lot of the issues with social media stem from not social media itself, but from human nature. And just, it's a tool. It's a tool that we can use, and some people use it for the bad. But I don't necessarily think that wouldn't happen if social media didn't exist. I think it would probably still happen in other forms.
Mm-hmm.
So, you think about bullying and cyberbullying, but bullying existed before cyberbullying existed.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it transforms over to social media, it doesn't change the source of the issue, which is people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether it's technology or not, you're always fighting human nature. So just like anything, technology can be used for good or bad, and social media is just a part of technology. So it's fighting human nature is the difficult part.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there are ways to regulate it. I mean, I think a nice thing about social media, since I do it full time and I'm always exposed to it, is I can turn on comment filters. I can block people and send them away. Like there are some things that I have the ability to do that social media grants me in terms of protecting myself. but it also grants people the right to, kind of what you were saying, keyboard warriors. It just gives people access directly to everyone all the time, and I think where it becomes a slippery slope.
Or the assumption that they have access or have a right to have access to people all the time. Yeah, I think that's definitely an issue. As we've gone on with doing it, the questions that we get have, first they start off as basically like, well, how do you put on kilt hose, and now sometimes they get more personal, and we don't shy from that to a degree because we're trying to talk about boosting a lifestyle with this stuff. But at the same time, I think you have to have some boundaries, right? So I assume that there's stuff that you don't talk about that people still insist on asking about. You just have to constantly shove it to the side, right?
Yeah. Being, I guess, a content creator, influencer, people are not shy about asking questions. They'll ask you absolutely anything and everything and feel entitled to knowing that knowledge. But it is ultimately up to you as the creator or the personality who they're trying to get information from, whether or not you want to share it. So people ask me a lot if I have like advice for people who are trying to get into content creation and things like that. And it's know your boundaries before you start and then adhere to those forever. Because that's how things start to go south and it starts to take over your life in a negative way when you get fully sucked into the internet.
I think that's key. I think it is, really. So let me throw 2 negative words at you guys and see how you react. Number 1, is social media turning people into narcissists, and therefore are we capitalizing on that as creators? Number 2, are we gaining our livelihoods via echo chambers? Are we parasites?
I think people already, back to my previous point, people are narcissistic to a degree, and social media will just expose what you already are. And if you have those kind of tendencies, you will tend to lean into them, through echo chambers and sort of, going through it. If you are grounded, if you have people around you who help to ground you, then there's less of a chance of that. If I ever got uppity about, the stuff that we do, my wife would drag me back down to earth immediately. So I'm not as concerned about that. Are you talking from the creator side or the user side?
Both, but I mean, how do we deal with that as creators is kind of where I'm going from. I mean, do you worry that you are being a narcissist ever? Or do you feel like, well, that's what I'm doing, I'm a performer? Or do you worry that you are encouraging people to be narcissistic with you, or to, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I kind of think what I'm interpreting, and you can correct me, is, or I guess what it kind of like sparks in my brain is more so like idealism and like creating a 2-dimensional or a 1-dimensional version of yourself. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out how best to word this because words are not my forte. I don't word. You'll notice that I talk in maybe 1 out of every 10 videos.
Would you rather some time out go write a tune about it?
I would prefer to express my thoughts in music, if you don't mind.
Okay.
In song here. But no, I think a lot of it is where it becomes social media is fake, right? Everybody's got a filter on. You're only showing the good parts, and that kind of is that kind of what you're referencing in terms of narcissism. Yeah. In terms of being selective and only showing the good parts as a creator and only showing the positive things. I can definitely see that, and my creator friends and I actually talk about this pretty regularly in terms of like sometimes I won't want to post a video because I didn't like how I looked in it. And then I have to remind myself that that's not my pillar. My pillar is the music. Did it sound good? Okay, then I'm going to post it anyway. And so, but I have to remind myself sometimes to not get sucked into that.
But do you worry then do you get shallow creeper type comments about your appearance then? I would assume you do.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, well, maybe they would go away. She doesn't look like my fantasy.
Well, no, they don't go away.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Well, because we are our worst critics as human beings.
Freaking-lutely.
So, I mean, even on my worst day, somebody might not think that that's bad. Even on my best day, somebody might not think that that's great. You know what I mean? So it's all internalized. I might look the same on 2 different days and feel completely different about how I physically appear. So in terms of appearance and things like that, I think the people are always going to be there. I deal with like the hyperfixation and over sexualization of my instrument and persona a lot. And I am struggling a bit with how to like counteract it, because I don't want to look ugly.
I would honestly, what we're kind of toying around with is more behind the scenes type stuff, where it's more just unfiltered. And this is what it is.
Yeah.
And kind of letting it all hang out, so to speak, and not worrying so much about, well, I didn't look good from that angle, or the audio's not exactly right, or I don't know if we should have like talked about this. It's more just going to be about recording and documenting our process of growing the company and of being who we are on social media, at least, and being a little bit more transparent, which I think goes directly to the against being narcissistic. In some ways, it's adding more to the pile, so we're being more narcissistic. In the other way, we're not curating it as much, and it's not the perfect angle with the perfect filter and the perfect phrasing of a thing. It's more just doing what we do and then normalizing real life versus normalizing fake life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, devil's advocate. Aren't you potentially eroding some boundaries by doing that?
Yes and no. It's to her point earlier, and to what I've always said, it depends on what you want to put out there, what you want to give to people. So as long as you know what your hard stops are, what your hard boundaries are, then no, I don't think you're compromising your morals, your integrity, whatever. It's more just, nope, I'm going to do this and talk about these things, and as long as you're thinking about it, and yep, I'm comfortable with that, that's fine. And there's also editing. So if we put something out and it's like, yeah, I don't like the way this made us sound, this isn't who I actually am, or something like that, then yeah, you can edit it, but I don't know. It's a balance.
What about your chameleon?
What about my chameleon? He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of this.
What inspired you to start doing content that had your chameleon in it, though? Is it because you got a sense that people just wanted to see what your daily life was like, or is it because it started as a joke? Or
well, so this is kind of what my pillars and my whole content creation center is, that it's my interest, so I more or less make what I want to make and create what I want to create. And then if people like it, then they do. And if they don't, then they don't. I do have ideas sometimes about what kind of things people are going to like more than others, but that doesn't stop me from making the other content in between.
Okay.
For example, the chameleon content does not take off. People don't, it's not my niche. It's not, the algorithm doesn't quantify me as like a chameleon creator. So it never takes off, but I like seeing him. I like making content. Well, I put them together. So that's kind of, I guess, an example of just me incorporating my interests as a fully rounded human being into my platform. So people weren't asking for it. I mean, I got the chameleon completely independently from social media, but I love him, and he's a hyperfixation of mine. I'm obsessed with him.
Okay.
I have chameleon dreams every night. Like I don't know, really.
Well, that's a title right there.
Chameleon Dreams. No, it's the next album is going to be completely dedicated to the chameleon.
Right on.
Can you imagine?
We could do a cat badge. We could do a coat of arms for you with a chameleon on it.
Stop, because that made me tear up a little. Aww. Because I love chameleons. No, for real. But that's it's one of my personal interests. It's something that I care about, something that I like, and I decided I would share that with the internet. Doesn't mean it's my only interest, but that's the reason that he's on there. It wasn't necessarily a tactic. Okay. But I told myself when I started social media that if I wasn't doing things that I enjoyed, then I should probably stop doing social media.
Good point. And the more you do things that you enjoy, and just say, I don't care what the not consequences, but I don't care what the audience wants to hear or doesn't want to hear. These are the things I want to talk about. This is my platform. I'll do with it what I please. Mm-hmm. And the more enjoyment you will get out of it, and the more you will find, people will find you, because, oh, well, I didn't know she, talked about chameleons, and I happen to love chameleons too. Or I didn't know she loved plants, and I'm a plantophile, or whatever a plant person is. Botanist. Botanphile? I don't know.
I think it is plantophile. I think.
I'm making
There's
up words.
another word for it, but I can't remember what it is. But
Yeah. But point is, the more of those
Houseplants
things...
are really hot right now.
I am a houseplant girly.
Yeah, but
I
the
really
more of
am.
those things you
But
lean
yeah.
into, the more people will find it, and then you will become known for those things versus trying to put on a fake version of yourself just to appeal to a certain audience.
Definitely. I think a misconception about social media, and one of my misconceptions, and it's obviously not true because it's turned into my career, is that you do have to like only adhere to your niche. But the more you do broaden it, the more it strengthens your inner community. So it's not that I'll put a chameleon in my video and that's what's going to make the video go viral and get me to like this huge audience. But what it's going to do is the people within my community already who also like reptiles, they're going to appreciate my content more, even if it doesn't have to do with a chameleon next time, because they're going to be like, oh, that's Allie the Piper. She's got a chameleon. He's really cute. His name is Basil. Because they would know that, right? So it's his name is Basil Atticus Cornelius. So
Sounds very Roman.
Yes.
yeah, he's regal, definitely like royalty, blood ties to royalty.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the people who like reptiles are going to think about that and like have that kind of buy-in and that connection with all of my content, even if it's not reptile related. The same
connect
thing
on a deeper level.
Yeah, the same kind of things happened with, that's how I get to people in the first place. 90% of my audience, they're not there because I play bagpipes. They're there because I play metal and they like heavy metal music and I played it in a way and they enjoyed it. And that's why they're there. Or maybe they like Star Wars and I had like the Star Wars content that I was creating and interjected bagpipes into that. And kind of like crossing into those different areas is how I've grown my platform to where it is. Not just playing tunes on the bagpipe all the time one way. Kind of taking your niche and what makes you unique and interjecting it into all these different communities and building from there. The unifying thing is a bagpipe, but that can be anything. It can turn into any type of content.
My temptation then is to go into tangents along the lines of what you just said, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be self-disciplined. I'm going to say, actually, funnily enough, this actually dovetails well with the next question I wanted to raise, which was, how do you feel people can better connect on social media these days? How do people, you are finding an audience as a professional, and you're doing it by tapping into other fandoms and basically creating a fandom of you, of all these people who occupy other fandoms. But in the process of doing that, what have you learned, and this goes for you too, about...
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Just want you
I'm
to feel
here,
good.
I might as well. Yeah,
want
thanks.
you to feel good. Finding a niche, finding a community, finding a tribe, or building a tribe where one doesn't exist. What have each of you witnessed in terms of that happening? What do you think is the good way to foster that?
Do you have a Facebook group or a Discord server or anything like that for your fans, for your community, for people who dig you?
No, I don't. Those are all things that I've put on the back burner.
The moderation of such things is a Herculean effort.
Yeah, I would hire a moderator. I can't take it on.
Yes and no. There's we have our Kilts Culture group on Facebook, and what we did was when we started, we had a few people who we knew and trusted who loved our brand and loved us. Like good customers, good friends who would protect the brand, so to speak, and kind of tap them to help us build the community. And then as it grew, more of those kind of rose to the top where it's like, hey, this guy and I have a lot in common. He seems like he's a pretty chill dude. So you start paying attention to them and how they're interacting. And if they're good stewards of the group, then you can tap them to be moderators and help with that. So we have a team of, 6 mods for the KNC group who are spectacular individuals. And we could not have the group without them. But that's building a community from scratch and creating a space where people can come together with a common interest, whether that's a common interest of you as an individual, or of like weird crossovers in music, or of the bagpipes, or of, you know, the chameleon's name Basil, like whatever that particular thing is. You have a community dedicated to that. You set up rules around it saying, here's the things we're going to talk about. Here's how we're going to interact with each other. And you set the tone for how positive you want it to be and where the boundaries are. And then, you know, you just enforce those boundaries. And it's a good way, in a positive way with social media, to foster a good, positive community versus, you know, the vitriolic community.
Yeah, I've been known to frequent my friends' Discord servers and wreak havoc. Good chaos. Good chaos. It's what I do. I just come in and am a nightmare. But yeah, I can definitely see the value in that, and you know, having that space where everybody can communicate, and the reason they're there is because you kind of brought them there, and then they just get to be themselves in that space under the terms and guidelines that you set for kindness.
But it'll extend, and it will grow. Once you build something like that, it will grow to places where you don't even realize it could go, and you're creating a community that you don't even realize what you're actually doing for people. One of our longtime customers, and like super nice guy, Jeff Withnell, just passed, and his wife is in the group as well. They were peas in the pod. They came out to like all kinds of different events with us and stuff. Wonderful people. And she said something in the group that he passed, and it's like I'm not trying to like gauge it in terms of social media, but it's a topic. Her post of his passing has stayed like at the top of the feed for the last week and a half, of people showing support for her, you know, and you know, condolences and that kind of stuff. So it is, you're actually affecting more people than you know, in different ways than you know. And that's the coolest part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's nice that you have like the avenue to go and actually see that in action, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do either of you think that it's possible to be a creator online now without having a community structure like that?
Yes, because I don't have one.
But are you no offense, but are you shooting yourself in the foot by not having one? Or is there going to reach a point where it becomes a necessity because you've reached kind of a point of critical mass? Or have you ever seen evidence that either they have, or they're going to, your fans, like start creating one of their own, like a fan club, and then what do you do because you're not actually in control of it?
So I don't really know the answer to that. I know that the community exists. They're just the people who find my posts and my platform, but I can see the value of having one unified place, but then I could also see the hassle of it too, which is, I mean, I have Patreon, and obviously Patreon is a little bit more exclusive, but you know, everybody has different expectations of how often you're posting, of what they're wanting to see in that kind of community, and so it's just another level of work. It's another place to be working. So even if you have moderators, and Patreon compared to like a Discord server is much smaller and a lot easier to manage, and I still have like that number of people who I can't please everybody, you know. Right. And so I would worry about that aspect, I guess, of having like a large platform to handle and manage and basically do like customer service on, or you know what I mean? It is kind
of, but I think that's partly where my question is coming from. Is that a necessary part of customer service at some point?
It depends on if you're a brand versus an individual. I wouldn't expect, if I'm following, you know, Dropkick Murphys, or I'm following a band and they have a Discord server, if I'm following you and you have a Discord server, I would probably expect more access, a la, you know, something kind of like a Patreon, or a little bit of access to you or, you know, others in the community. But I don't think it's necessarily, it's not a hard stop. You have to have it or you don't have to have it. It's just a different way to build it. And it, again, back to the boundaries. What boundaries are you willing to set or not set for yourself of what you're willing to give to the community versus what you don't want to talk about and want to keep private?
What about time boundaries? Now you are in a unique position of having, well, you're running a business as well as trying to do the media entrepreneur thing, right? It's not even, for us, it's not even exactly entrepreneurship. It's more like building community, because we know that if there was no community, we wouldn't be able to sell anything as a kilt company. So you're kind of a unique situation. But for each of you, what kind of hours do you put in a week? And do you feel like that is more hours than you would be putting in if you were a content creator of some kind back 10, 15, 20 years ago? Because I talk to bands, spoiler, I talk to bands all the time, and they say like, oh my God, I spend so much time having to deal with social media. It's so much work, blah, 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 blah. So how do you feel about that? Like, how much time do you put in, and when do you think you're going to hit a wall, if ever? And how do you not?
As Rocky kind of mentioned earlier, I don't have a clock.
Okay.
I mean, I have to stop myself from responding to texts at 2 a.m. I'll schedule emails at 2 a.m. to go out at 10 the next day. When I do respond to my Patreon messages, it's usually 10:30, 11 at night, and they're always like, what are you doing? Go to bed. But I don't have a clock. I have worked anywhere from, just like a 5-hour half day to a 16-hour day, and that's kind of like all the time. I work 7 days a week for sure. And I would say on average it is 12-hour days, and it's a lot because it's content creation. It's merch promotion. It's trying to sell tickets for the tour. It's trying to record music. It's trying to promote the music. That's all one aspect, and teach lessons. That's kind of on the side. But then there's reading comments, getting suggestions, feeding out negativity, breaking up fights in the comments.
Really?
Honestly, the amount of times I block people is more so because they're bullying other people in my comments, not even me. Like, bully me, I'll handle it because I won't engage with you, but it's a lot. But it's responding to DMs and messages. People send me lovely messages. I don't want to leave them unread and unresponded to. So it's all of that, which is kind of like the influencer customer support, because even though as a content creator, I mean, I sell merch. So even though I'm not selling something monetarily to people, I'm still asking them to have some sort of buy-in with my brand. And I have to perform customer service still as an influencer, because I don't want people to watch one video and then be like, oh, she's not somebody I want to, she just ignores people all the time. So I do respond to comments. And then there's also, this is what takes up a lot of time, analytics.
But good for you. I mean, I think
analytics.
If anybody drops the ball on any parts of this stuff, I think
it falls
data
apart.
mining and analytics is probably one of the things that independent creators probably do the worst at.
Yeah, I spend, and across managing 4 major platforms as well, it's different for all 4 of them. So I spend a lot of time not just determining what content I want to make, but kind of having the drawback on, this is going to do really well on YouTube, but this is going to do really well on TikTok. Which one is more important to me right now? And so I'll have times where my videos are totally flopping on TikTok and I get like a low number of views for my account, but then I'm going viral on Facebook and YouTube. But then when I have to support that account again, I'll have to switch and know that this kind of content will work, but then this is going to go into purgatory. But I can't be making 2 different types of content all the time, or else I would still, I already don't sleep a lot. I would never sleep if I had to make a curated video for each platform every single day.
That is a similar challenge that we have, is trying to figure out, people interact differently. Even if it's the same person, they're interacting differently on LinkedIn than they would on TikTok than they would on Facebook, depending on, if the rest of my family's on Facebook, I may, be a little bit more proper. If nobody I know is on TikTok, I may be a little bit more wild, that kind of thing.
Hence the meme.
But it's difficult to know what to post where, or not difficult to know, but there's only so many hours in a day, so you have to kind of post the same things across all of it, but to your point, it's going to perform better here and not over there.
And how much time do you put in?
A lot.
It's hard to track.
Yeah, it is and it's not. I'll get here at between 6 and 7 every morning, and I'll leave at 6:30-ish at night, sometimes 7 at night. I work Monday through Saturday. I used to work every single day of the week. My wife made me stop doing that at some point. She used to work every day of the week with me, in fairness. So it's a lot. Just what I have done over the years has changed. So if you're looking at, me as entrepreneur versus you, not versus, but, juxtaposed with you as entrepreneur from 2020 to now versus me as 2003 to now, I've always put in an exorbitant number of hours. But the way Mac phrases it as I will just fire myself from certain jobs. I'll have, Mac is our production manager. So he'll, when he started making kilts with us, and then as we started growing and I realized I couldn't sit there and do, manage the production team as well as do customer service, as well as start doing marketing stuff and all these other things. I just fired myself from production manager and focused on the other jobs. Then I fired myself from customer service and focused on just marketing stuff. So I kind of move different ways. You are more of a solopreneur, someone who has to do it all themselves right now. You're starting to build your support team, and you have a manager now, so they're able to take certain things off of your plate.
I fired my manager.
She had a manager. And
I have a merchandise manager. I didn't fire her.
You're looking for
I reallocated her.
Fair.
We know some people in Pennsylvania that would be really good management experts for you.
It's hard. It's hard trying to find management for a musician / influencer.
Fair. Very fair.
And a bagpiper.
In a way, I'm not surprised because you probably, just by having done the work for these past few years, have more experience than a lot of people who would be coming from I'm an artist manager background. They're used to dealing with venues and schedules and things like that. They're not, and you want to promote the show? Well, better get some posters printed up. I assume that there's some old school thinking that really doesn't always translate. I know a DJ who is constantly self-promoting, and he's being very successful with it, but he works as hard as you do, because he's constantly having to get the social media message out that he's also doing social media.
Yeah. Mia and I, two influencer musicians, muse-influencers, just made that up. It's not good. We're going to cut that from the
musicians.
That sounds like influenza.
Or influzies, which is not good either.
No.
This episode sponsored by Mucinex.
Love it. Musical influencers going on tour together had a lot of fighting with agents and venues who were like, okay, well, we're not going to book you. You don't have a tour history. I was like, I know. We don't.
That sounds like a catch-22.
Well, we've already sold out Boston, and Boston ghosted us. Boston wouldn't email us back. Boston wouldn't, they wouldn't get back to us. And then we found a booking agent who got the venue. And then they were like, okay, well, these are XYZ. We sold out Boston within a week and a half. So with no paid promo, with no flyers, no posters, just by social media.
You're new in a space that is a dinosaur. Music venues have been around forever. They don't know how to handle people like you who didn't come up the traditional way.
Correct. We're doing it completely backwards. And that's the boat that Mia and I are in as well, is we have millions of followers and fans, but not a ton of streamable music. I mean, we have similar sized platforms to some people. I've surpassed some of my favorite artists in terms of my monthly listenership and my social media following, which is very strange. Triggers the imposter syndrome for sure. But I don't have as much content as them in terms of streamable music. I don't have the tour history that they have. We have different fan bases for sure. But it's just very bizarre. And to try and find somebody who can come in and try to take off some of my workload is very tricky. Because I would have to train them, honestly. I would have to train somebody how to do it. Even with my merchandise manager, who I love, they make some of my merchandise, and they send it out as well. But I was sending all my merch out before, kind of doing it the DIY way, because I have a lot of people who want it, but not enough to like have a business. You know what I mean? So it was tricky because I had to kind of like train them what I was doing, and then they had to go and fix it to do it better. But they had to know how I was doing it first, because that's what people were expecting to receive. So it's chaotic. It's improved over the past few months, but even that took months of transition to actually get to a point where it was functional. So I can't even imagine bringing on somebody as a true manager to speak on my behalf, because it's every day changing.
The biggest lesson I learned over time, my literal like light switch unlock moment, was going from trying to do everything myself. And I'm not saying this is you, I'm just pointing it out for myself. Trying to do everything myself and holding people to my standard of what I think is the right way to do something or acceptable or whatever, versus just saying, okay, 90%, 95% of my standard should be fine. It's the speed of getting someone else to do it so I don't have to worry about certain things over time after a training period. But you get up to the spot where it's got to be close enough, and maybe something that they're going to do a different way may actually work better than the thing that I'm doing, and kind of eating a little bit of that humble pie and saying, okay, let me just do it. But the time and the speed that will buy you, or bought me, again, back to me, is immeasurable over the life of our business so far. And we've been almost 20 years so far.
Yeah. I guess where I struggle with that a bit is trying to figure out what pieces I could give a person that don't also require every other piece. Like, if I was just like, okay, yeah, you can handle captions, that's kind of tricky, because like of everything else, like I track trends and I track analytics, so I kind of know where hashtagging, I mean, I'm not super, that's like a very silly example, but I've noticed certain hashtags now by trial and error are starting to work for me based on my analytics. So I feel like I would have to have them come into the analytics side, but that would just kind of move backward and backward and backward and backward and backward until they have to be a piece of everything to fully understand it.
But if you can find someone to help you with the analytics and do some of the research for you and get into that, so that you can they will give you the Cliff Notes version of the analytics. So then you can help them formulate, okay, based on these analytics, these are the type of keywords, these are the type of, hashtags, whatever, that I want to use, or these are the songs that I may want to use in the next video. That will help inform you. But if you didn't have to do 10 hours of research on the stuff and digging into the analytics, but somebody can give you a 20-minute, half-hour breakdown of the things that they found over those 10 hours, that is time you can be doing other things.
So
I don't know your entire process, so I'm kind of spitballing for you.
Yeah, I could see that potentially working. It would just have to be the right person who speaks the language of both bagpipe, Celtic music, Highland culture, and social media. So we have to get some people to do that. If you're listening, and that is you,
please email her.
No, but like they're just, I feel like the bagpipe modern rock niche it's not that it hasn't existed before, but on the social media front, it's kind of new, and there's not like a community underneath it yet. It's you
should build a community and then ask the community for help.
You want to be a mod?
Yeah, because I need more jobs.
Yeah, me too.
You source the mods from the community.
I know, but I need somebody to build the server. I can't do that. I'm not tech savvy.
Speaking of community, then, put on your crystal ball hats. Get out your wizard hats, your crystal balls. Where do you see each of the platforms that you're working on going? Is there any that are fated to die, or do you think you're going to have to constantly be monitoring all of them and then 5 more new ones that come in the next 10 years, or what? Where are we headed?
I think... okay, my my perceptions have definitely changed. The platforms are evolving. They're evolving, and it's crazy. YouTube is going to exist forever. YouTube is always going to be a pillar.
Yep.
It has stood the test of time, and now YouTube has shorts, and shorts are blowing up. So it kind of fits a little bit of every corner of what social media is right now. There's the community tab, so you can post like it's Facebook. There's the shorts, so you can basically do TikTok, and then there's the long form videos, which no other platform really has. Not like that. So YouTube is a little bit of an everything. It's never going to go away.
The thing I find funny about YouTube is they had their foray into social media with G+, which failed miserably. I don't know if you knew of G+. And the shorts and the community tab are they're dipping their toe back in that water, so to speak. And I think they're doing a reasonably good job of it, and they're also artificially giving it more organic reach because they want people to start using it more.
I agree, and I've noticed the same thing with Facebook and Instagram Reels. My Facebook page started to blow up because of Reels, because they want people to be watching them, they want people to be using them. But that has leveled out. Their plan worked. Now I'm using the platform. It's one of my larger, well, I think it's still my lower platform, but it's still a big platform. And they all mesh together for me. But it's similar in size to my Instagram, which is crazy because Facebook was never something that I like really pushed. So it kind of naturally grew because they wanted people using the Reels. But their other features still generate, they still produce
momentum.
Yes. They still have the juice
to
go forward. So it's kind of interesting. I kind of thought Facebook was I'm not going to put my time into it, but it has been one of my favorite platforms to work on.
You hear that, Zuckerberg?
Don't bring him into this.
Be grateful.
I am not grateful.
No, he needs to be grateful.
He needs to be grateful. Yeah, you're welcome. But I don't know. I think people always say TikTok is gonna, it's gonna evaporate and go away. And I always feel like it's starting to dwindle, and then something changes, and then it's crazy again.
Really?
I kind of thought it would happen. It would be like Vine, which died. Vine is dead. The Vine has diminished, withered. And I kind of thought TikTok would be like that, but we're few years in now, and it kind of has its pillar in the social media community. And the fact that people are taking TikTok seriously in terms of using it for promotion for brands, like major brands, they're using it kind of like YouTube. I think TikTok might stay. I don't think it's going to wither. I think it might stick around.
I would go so far as to say I think that the other elements you're talking about with the other platforms evolving has been a forced evolution because of TikTok.
Absolutely.
So it's been a catalyst, if nothing else. The question then is, how much does the Chinese government care about bagpipes? So,
I mean, not enough to pay me nearly anything.
We even give you a blue check mark. Come on now.
I know, literally.
I want a plaid check mark.
Honestly, none of them have, though, except for YouTube. So,
I think TikTok is definitely still the up and coming, and as more advertisers start coming to the platform, we're starting to advertise, like pay money to advertise on TikTok. And the thing that we're in a beta program, and the thing that they had to look at our content to accept us into the program, and they wanted to know what types of ads we would be producing. And they want the ads to look like the content.
Yes.
They don't want highly polished ads.
They want a phone ad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that is a sneaky but creative and smart way to do it, is to serve people the ads as if it's just content, and or make ads that look like content and that actually are like content that you would want to watch, and therefore it would produce better, and therefore it wouldn't annoy the users of the platform as much. But I think Facebook's saving grace, in my not so humble opinion, is the communities, because that's where, if you're already there in the communities and you're part of different Facebook groups that you really, really love, and you've grown very attached to the other people in the group, and this is where you found your friends online and you have a supportive community, I think that will help to save them, weather any kind of storms of Cambridge Analytica, data mining, blah, 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 bad will.
But Discord is doing exactly that.
Yes, but how many people are on Discord? And I made the same... Here's the argument that I made to a friend of mine, Steve Ashton, 10 years ago. I guess almost 10 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
He owns a website called xmarksthescot.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a forum. So
old school.
Yes, very old school. Yes, and the discussion I had with them, argument almost, was you need to be putting X marks on Facebook. And his point was, why would we put our community on Facebook? People are already here, and they can just come here and check in. And I said, yes, but they're on Facebook all day, and getting served stuff in your news feed is a passive way to be part of the group versus thinking to yourself, oh, I have to go check out that kilt forum. I want to go there purposefully and now check in there versus something I'm already doing. You're creating friction. So that is, again, what will help with Facebook continue their world domination versus Discord. I think Discord can be a powerful, powerful tool. But again, you have to drive members to it, and people have to, go there to have it, unless you just happen to have it open on your computer.
Because I feel like, but I know people who do keep Discord open on their systems all the time. They tend to be younger folks, and I could see someone else making the exact same argument to you that you made to Steve all those years ago. That why aren't you on Discord? That's where the future is. That's where everybody is going.
It's the critical mass part of it. Mm-hmm. You have to reach critical mass that everyone is going there all the time.
So are you trying to say that Facebook has closed the door after them, and there's no way that
no
platforms can?
TikTok came in. Mm-hmm. They have reached critical mass. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of making sure that you can get to that point.
Okay. Another kind of avenue to that as well is Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And
mm-hmm.
I have a love-hate relationship with Reddit right now. I had a video reposted without watermark and without credit, and it went viral on Reddit, which is great. But, oh man, when you can't control you would need to be the moderator of your own subreddit, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, my goodness, can it be nasty? A friend of mine has a subreddit that someone made for her,
mm-hmm.
like a follower, and it's like unflattering screenshots or like bad angle things and
cesspool.
It's a cesspool, yeah, and it's unfortunate because there's nothing you can do about it. But Reddit has been known to also be a very powerful place for community.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm in r/bagpipes. I hang out. I like going there, and seeing what's up. And I was in r/chameleons, but they're kind of mean, so I left.
No. You're chameleon snobs? Chameleon
oh my
gatekeepers?
God. So gatekeepy. That's an episode for the future.
Why?
Come back in the future for the discussion of the chameleon sub-community. But yeah, no,
well, bless their hearts.
But it's kind of what you had referenced, going completely back to the beginning of echo chambers is
mm-hmm.
how I feel communities can be sometimes.
I'd argue all the time, personally.
Yeah, and so that's...
By definition, almost.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, yeah, and it's kind of like, again, all on you and up to you to make it not be that, and that's just a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Having a fan base is a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But responsibility, man, it's crushing.
Now, the video that you're talking about, I'm assuming that's your Freebird video?
Yeah, it was the Freebird video.
Was the first one, or you did it with and without the lead guitar?
Yeah.
Which one popped?
Both went viral.
Nice.
Weirdly enough. They both have over 1 million on TikTok. The first one with the guitar went viral on someone else's Twitter. And then the second one without the guitar is what went viral on Reddit. So just, I guess, Freebird in general.
Now, did you have a feeling, or do you know, or do you, when you're thinking about what kind of content to create, do you have a thought in your head of, okay, I know this one's going to go, so I'm going to hold on to it for the right time to post it? Or do you just, as soon as you think like, oh, this is going, I'm going to do it?
I've got to do as soon as I think about it, I got to do it. However, I did know that it was going to go viral. I talked about, my mom can vouch for me. We had a conversation on the phone, and I was like, if this one doesn't go viral for me, I'm going to be really confused about the algorithm and the app right now, because it's Freebird on the bagpipes. I feel, you know what I mean? So I had a feeling that this one would hit it would hit the For You page. I didn't think it would go viral everywhere, and it didn't, but I knew that this is something that TikTok would like based on the analytics. Did not think it would go viral twice. That was a surprise. Usually that's not how that works. So, and I also didn't think it would get pulled into other communities. That was also a surprise. A good and bad one.
Now, how did that happen? They downloaded the song and then posted it on their own?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's how you didn't get credit, air quotes, for the...
Well, yeah. So someone downloaded the video from TikTok. So it had the TikTok watermark and my username. So that was fine. And they didn't tag my Twitter because my Twitter's barely existent. It's suffocating. So someone else had tagged me though, and so I ended up finding it. So I wasn't too mad at that, but the person who posted on Reddit put it through a watermark remover. So but the lovely people of Reddit did, like, the comments were littered with, this is Piper.Alley, this is Hallie the Piper, this is who this is. And so that was really nice. So
cool. My favorite watermark stories are the ones where a company will take pictures of us and with a watermark on it, and then put their watermark over top of our watermark, or just block ours out on a solid black bar and put theirs right there. Like, that's excellent. That's me in that photo. Like, yeah.
No, that's amazing. Love that for you guys.
That's John. He's been working here for years. What are you talking about? They sent you this picture of this guy at the beach with your head photoshopped on it. You know. Tell me about performances and concerts online then. Have you delved into that at all? I mean, what about Twitch?
I tried Twitch. I gave up on Twitch.
Okay.
Poor Twitch.
My brother's a Twitch streamer, cool. Which is great, but Twitch, you have to, like, again, you just need to completely dedicate 100% to it, and be on that schedule and do that. And I don't have the time to do that and handle all of the other stuff. Okay. And I don't think it's necessarily, necessary, not necessarily necessary, a necessity. I can say every iteration of that word if you want. But I don't think it's a necessity. I don't think that, thank you. I don't think it's needed for me right now. I don't need to be on every single platform. I can let a few go here and there. But I did try Twitch. But I also, like, I barely go live on TikTok. You know, I'm not on a schedule for live streams. I did do a paid Facebook live concert once. And? It went fine. It went well considering I was pretty early on it was a fundraising to buy all of my recording equipment.
Oh, right on. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it did pretty well. But live's hard. Live shows are hard. I think if I'm going to do it in the future, it will be through a venue, so I can still have the polished sound, the lights, the aesthetic that people are expecting for a live show, and then
offload the tech and you just focus on the music.
Yeah, I think that would be the way I want to handle that in the future. It can just be pretty tough trying to handle that just like from a, phone.
We've been intimidated by it. I mean, we're not doing the same thing you do, but we've been intimidated by that factor with doing live presentations. Yeah. Also, like we did a live show at Celtic Classic Festival in Bethlehem, PA, last fall, and I was very keen at the time to try and live stream it also. But we were just like, there's a lot of things to try and juggle at this point. So.
On the fly at an event where we don't have access to Wi-Fi, it would have to be,
100%, yeah. Mia and I had the same discussions and ultimately came up to the same deliberations about tour. And the other question, too, is that, does that undervalue the experience of going and seeing a live show? Which I think is kind of what we determined it would be. It'd be kind of undervaluing, if you can just sit at home and watch the same thing. And we're trying to curate our performances to be like an in the room experience. And so I feel like sometimes you do have to choose. They're different beasts to tackle.
But it'll never be the same. Like I remember seeing a few different shows or concerts during the pandemic where it was live streamed, and it was just like, okay, it looks like I'm watching a music video kind of thing. So
Right.
the vibe was completely different.
But we were all
Yes.
doing that because there was no other choice. Also,
I think virtual performing is a different type of performing, and it can be done well. I think you can give a live stream, you can give a live streamed show, but you can't have an audience there. I think it has to be either completely virtual to be done well. Like, obviously you can do whatever you want, but to be done well, it has to be like, I'm doing a virtual performance and my audience is my virtual audience. And then you can do kind of what you do for your live shows. You can take questions live, you can do this live and all of that. And that's all great. But I really struggle with exactly what you just said, diminishing the experience, asking someone to buy tickets to watch a show that they don't get to really experience. Because I'm not going to be talking, I'm not going to be looking at them, I'm not going to be talking to them, I'm not going to be looking at the camera. And also, if you're buying, but if you're buying tickets to my in-person show that's going to be live streamed, you don't want to watch me talk to a camera.
Yeah.
You want me to talk to you. So I feel like that's just splitting it up too much and diverting the attention away from the audience, whoever it really is. I hit the table.
it's okay.
Alert.
It's okay. It's all right, table. It's okay.
Sorry.
I'm inclined to agree in the sense that keeping them I think they're both different services you can provide as a content creator, but they need to be separate. I mean, I know a lot of people who, especially when you're hitting the Patreon, doing a live stream that's very free form. Like, there's one content creator I know on YouTube, and he'll do a live stream on weekends and he's just sitting there painting while he's talking to people and comment and responding to comments. That's it. But people send in money.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of experience. That's more of the behind the scenes personal experience, make sure your boundaries are set before you do it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I think it has to be different. So
Yeah.
I'll give you one other hot take angle on it. Thinking of it from the user perspective or the audience member perspective, if you're doing both a live stream as well as in-person concert, trying to broadcast an in-person concert, if you're not coming to my town, or if I live in California and your tour is going from Chicago to Boston, I'm not going to be able to get there. So at least, even if you're not staring directly at the camera and you're not playing it up directly for the live stream kind of thing, it still gives them something. Maybe the ticket value is $5 versus $25 in person or something like that, but it's still, you're giving them an experience they wouldn't otherwise have at all.
Yes. And that I think everybody, it depends on what your intentions are. But if I'm trying to reach a venue capacity in New York, because that's one that's bugging me right now, if I'm trying to do that and I'm trying to sell my tickets for, let's say, $20, and then I charge a live or a streaming ticket for $15 because it's not the in-person experience, what's to stop half of the New Yorkers from watching it at home?
Because it's not the in-person experience.
Not everybody wants that, though. Not everybody. Some people want to just hear the live music. I mean, I'm also working with multi-generations of people. My fan base is massive in scale. I've got 4-year-old fans, and then I've got 84-year-old fans, and they're all coming. Or they're not at all. And I think sometimes limiting the experience to a more exclusive and intimate thing is more valuable than having it just be for everyone. I feel like it's more special to say, I'm going to Boston. Come to see me at Boston. Come see me in Boston. Than it is to say, I'm doing a show, everyone can come.
Right.
Because then what's to stop people also from watching a show that's like on a day that's more convenient for them instead of going to the one on the Thursday in their town.
Right.
So I don't know. I think some things are sacred, and live music is one of them.
Okay.
Plus, the goal too is that the tour is going to do well, we're going to be able to go to California someday.
Fair.
You know, and the only way to do that is for it to be successful.
Understood.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, I haven't done this yet, touring. So that's just my thoughts going into it all.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let me shift gears on you now. We've been talking about the hardcore business side of things and the tech side of things, and it's a spunky load of knolls and it's complicated, but at the heart of this from the creative standpoint is the fact that we are both making our livings off of heritage. You know, I dare I say it, we are selling heritage in a way. Now, we more than you perhaps, Allie, because I mean your music is a fusion of traditional and very modern elements.
Right.
But how do you parse that out, and how do you, on a personal level or a professional level, parse out who's doing it in a respectful way and who is not, and how can people tell the difference, and how can they tell that you are, on the assumption that we are all good guys here, that we are the good guys, not the bad guys, that we're not, in other words, that we're not trying to use the music, or in our case the tartans or the culture, as a
exploitive way
versus a
Yeah.
backdrop,
Yeah.
a gimmick, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The theories on this would exist on a spectrum. So on, you know, the far right, let's say, you know, super traditional, that you know, bagpipe music should only be played in Scotland in a traditional bagpipe, you know, grade 1 band, or, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, the just have fun, do whatever I want, play with the culture, caricature, you know, it doesn't matter kind of thing. It's just fun. And, you know, where do we fall on that spectrum? And then the people, so let's say, just for sake of argument, we fall in the middle, somewhere in the middle. The people to the right who view, you know, tradition is sacred. You must only do traditional things. It can never evolve. It must be exactly the same way as it always was. They would look at anything we are doing or you are doing and say, you know, well, you're just playing with music, and that's not how the bagpipe is supposed to be played. Or, you know, designing new tartans that aren't clan tartans. What? You know, versus on the other end of it, someone saying like, you know, oh, well, you know, you could just play a plastic bagpipe, you know, and, you know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, yeah, I'm going to wear a Halloween costume, or I'm going to be, you know, the Lucky Charms guy.
On a unicycle.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of I think that the parameters of what we're talking about. How do you think about it?
I think, yes, there's definitely a spectrum as well. I mean, do you want me to give you my feelings?
Let me preface this. I think for anybody who doesn't know, it should be noted before you give this answer that you have played in a competition band, correct?
Yeah, it's my roots.
And
yeah.
You're trained as a traditional piper in a traditional band. You played in Scotland, and I think your band won. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you're not just talking out of your hat here. You've seen the whole thing. Okay.
Yes.
You've seen some shit, man.
So I've seen, listen, the flashbacks are hitting me right now. No, for real though, I think back to when I was taking music theory classes, and we were talking about experimental composers. And Beethoven was an experimental composer, even though we think of him as a classic now. We think of that now. Van Gogh as an artist, during his time, super experimental. These are not things that we think of as classics now, were not then. And I think in the space of art and fashion, evolution is always happening. And ultimately, for me, what ties back to it are two things: respect for what you're doing, and not trying actively to make it a gimmick for likes and views and money. And then there's also knowing the rules before you break the rules. Those are two things that are kind of important to me and are part of my going back to talking about pillars as well. But I have bagpipe students who found me because they want to do what I do, and I'm teaching them how to play traditionally first. And then I'll teach them some fun things that go outside of it. But, you know, you have to know the rules before you break the rules, and I think that can kind of apply to both situations.
We say it all the time, literally.
I
I snickered when you said it.
Allie the Piper, I'd like to thank you for reading the prepared statement that was provided to you before Here's your $20. Okay.
But that was a big thing in music theory. I mean, I remember in class, in high school specifically, we would be sitting there and we'd be analyzing a piece from literally any really highly acclaimed composer or professional and be like, oh, parallel fifths, the cursed parallel fifths. And then we would like,
those parallel fifths.
Literally, how dare they? Because if I wrote parallel fifths in my part writing, I'd get a mark on my paper, and so we would bring that up. And why? How did they get away with this? How did they get away with this? Is published. Orchestras perform this. How did they get away with this? And they knew the rules and they chose to break them there. And I feel like this is where it's I feel like I have started to broach into the area where I'm allowed to break the rules, because I've spent so many hours and thousands of dollars learning them from the best of the best. And I sought out the best of the best to teach me the rules. And I did my due diligence and I learned them. And I think you guys have done the same. It's not learning an instrument, but you can tell me the history of the tartans. You can tell me the history of my own family tartan better than I could probably tell it to somebody. And I think that honestly gives you the right to now break some of the rules and make your own. And I think that that's fair. I think the other part of it too, and the reason why you're able to sell it, is because you also do deeply have a respect for where that came from.
How often do either of you think it's conscious versus just an organic process where people start to break the rules to create something new?
I think I want it to be more conscious than it is.
Same.
I think the vast majority of people, when you first get into something and you're geeking out about it, you're in your initial honeymoon phase of a new genre, a new topic, a new whatever. You get excited about it and you're so excited and you want to do all the things all the time, all at once, and you're running before you can walk, or before you can crawl in a lot of cases. So it's about those people harnessing that enthusiasm and making them kind of slow down a little bit and be like, okay, let's talk about the rules, not rules or traditions, conventions, whatever you want to call it, first, and figuring out the reasons why this outfit looks good, or the reason why this song works the way it is, written, versus just throwing a bunch of things at it to see what happens. So there's, it's you generally come to a better place when you understand the things that you are doing and why you are doing it, not just because, well, it's just supposed to look like this. The sporns, it's a bit of fur in the front. No, there's reasons. It's a pocket. You wear it here. It's about this size. So there's a lot of that. But back to the point of how do you tell the good guys from the bad guys, so to speak? And not necessarily saying bad guys, but another thing that we talk about is being a student of the culture, a true student, and making sure you're understanding why certain things are done, making sure you're doing it for the right reasons, you're building the community or fan base or whatever, and showcasing the talents in a positive light, showcasing the bagpipes in a positive light, showcasing the culture in a positive light, and not just doing it to make money or for your own ends. Like the content that we put out, around, St. Patrick's Day or about Robert Burns and all these different, topics that have something to do with culture. It's a branding exercise, yes, but at the same time, we're not making money off of a Robert Burns video. We're doing it to say, like, hey, here's a cool fact. More people need to know about this thing, and we're trying to reach people in a different way or in a different platform than they would otherwise know existed, or just get at them and make them learn.
Yeah.
Learn, damn it.
You've built the community. You have the people there, and you're trying to interject the same teachings of the culture as being a student of it that you had to try to also make them students of the culture. And I think that's kind of what makes me think that you guys are the good guys.
Thank you.
But
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be here if I didn't think so. I have a deep respect for the bagpipes, and I have a deep respect for the culture, even though I definitely don't claim to know everything about it. I know what often try to learn. And I think that that's really important. It's also why I don't make kilt specific content, is because I don't think that I'm the voice for that. And so I know what I know, and then I will choose that place to educate people on it, which is also why I appreciate that you two don't make bagpipe content.
You don't want me to make oh, good God, no. No, but it's also about reaching new audience, reaching a younger audience, so that everything that we are doing and talking about and the culture that we care about is preserved and pushed forward.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've been doing a lot more of recently is interviewing people. So we've interviewed a couple mills. We've interviewed Dr. Rosie Wayne from the National Museum of Scotland. I just interviewed Brian Wilton, which is going to be coming out soon, who was the director of the Scottish Tartans Authority. So it's about finding those stories that are either untold. I'm sounding like a journalist, but finding those stories that are untold that we think are important and will be important, and putting them on wax so that in 50 years, 100 years after I'm dead and gone, maybe 200 years, those stories will be accessible, so that it, when it comes to the kilt, it started at very murky origins and no one knows exactly how certain things evolved over time because it wasn't documented. So part of what we see and we want to do is start documenting things so that there will be a direct, like, oh, look, here's a YouTube video from 200 years ago from that, USA Kilts guy, and he documented X, Y, and Z about how this thing was. Like, that is, to a degree, I'm going to way overstate it, but that's like our immortality within it is helping. That's the legacy within it, to promote it and to document what is happening so that it'll be easier for people later on.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the things that helps to make sure you're the good guys, or to spot the good guys, is you can recognize that all of the things that you're doing right now are the legacy you're going to lead, not just for yourself, but for what you're involved in. And I think a lot of influencers and creators don't ask themselves that question. And I know specifically, like, it's part of the reason, it's been what I wanted to do forever, was help to change the negative stereotypes surrounding the bagpipes. And that's the key center of everything that I do. I like to think that I'm a good guy.
You're doing a good job of
you're
it too,
a guy.
because you're specifically sticking to it and talking about it, and you don't make a joke about it. And it's not, you're not like, hey, jump on bagpipes and trampoline joke inserted here kind of thing.
And you're also having fun with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's...
I want people to see that it can exist in the musical space the way everything else gets to. That's, to put it very simply, ultimately what I'm trying to do. I want one day, maybe in 200 years from now, in a music class, when you're learning about how the guitar works, the next segment is we're going to learn about how the bagpipes work, because it's an instrument too that exists in the space, but no one gets to learn that in school.
And how they can exist together.
And how they can exist
it
together.
evolved over time, and how this musical genre evolved over time.
Yeah, and it's never been about, we're going to talk about Allie and how Allie did this. It's like, even if it wasn't a credit-based situation, just that I get to exist in this space and be able to put positivity out for millions of people helps to counterbalance all of the negative stereotypes that I had shoved down my throat when I was a young bagpiper starting from the general public. Oh, do flame shooting out your drones? So, like,
What you got in there? A cat? You're squeezing a cat
every
to death?
day, every day. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. How do you get that thing to go? How many cats you got in that bag?
No, but just us being, in our respective spaces, us being able to be part of the conversation and or push the narrative, push the conversation forward is really, what we get out of it is the fact that we're just included in it.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to be talking about it, and that anyone, listens to us or cares about the same thing. That's the cool part, is just having people along for the ride.
Yeah, 100%. The community.
Indeed.
How much does validation feed into people in the future knowing that you did a good job, as opposed to not? To springboard off what you just said, do you think people adequately recognize that what you're doing is the good guy approach. For instance, I know a certain internet celebrity who does similar content to what you have done with the bagpipes and popular music. I know that they also use red pipes, and very much that it's a very much, I think you know who I'm talking about, and it's very much a gimmick. I get that vibe that's a gimmick, but I see a lot of people give that performer a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Is there a risk of that legacy surviving simply because of the critical mass of attention? Or
Yes, but you can't care.
okay,
You have to know. I'm not speaking for you, just in general.
No, but I already agree.
You have to know in your heart the reasons you are doing it, and you have to do it the way that you want to do it. And again, drawing your own lines of these are the types of things I'm going to do. These are the types of things I'm not going to do. This is how I'm going to approach it, and just live up to that, and know that you've done your best job doing that. And that's how I sleep at night.
To kind of rephrase a very similar thing to what you're saying is you can't let, I'm not saying that anybody who maybe isn't genuine about the origins of their sound and who maybe does use the instrument more so as a prop for attention, that doesn't make you a bad guy. It's not that. It's just maybe culturally is not the best way to like shape that's not for the instrument.
They're coming at it from a different angle.
They're coming at it from a different angle. I definitely don't want to like say that anybody out there is doing bad for the system, but that's not how I would want to do it. That's not how I liked to see the instrument when I was growing up, and it's not the influence that had a good impact on me and my friends in the competitive system and the other people who are trying to learn the instrument, because it's not accurate. It's not achievable the way it's portrayed. And I think you can't let that, though, deter you from being the person that you wanted to see when you were growing up. That's what I'm trying to do.
I like that.
If I, as a 14-year-old, when I was first learning the pipes, saw my content today, I'd be inspired. I'd be excited. I would like that, and I wouldn't cringe if my friends on Facebook sent that to me. And as long as I'm able to say that about what I'm doing, then I'll still think that I'm doing the right thing. If ever that changes, you can hold me to this, and I make something and I would have been like, oh man, I can't believe like somebody did that, and that's so embarrassing for the instrument, then I'll quit. So that's my boundary.
Bottom line is we're going to let history be the judge.
History,
right?
Yeah. I mean, there's
one
no way to know
one
for
last
sure.
question then.
Yeah.
What percentage of these efforts, for the sake of your legacies, you creator people, is creativity? Is it 10%? Is it 50%? Is it 90%?
Depends on what the content is. If it's
Like original ideas, really hardcore creativity.
I'll let you go first.
I like to think that there's creativity infused in every part of the process. It's hard. Most things are inspired. It doesn't mean that they're not original. I mean, I didn't write Freebird, but no one, you know what I mean? They're still covers, so there is an element of it like, oh, I wonder if this could work. Does that mean creativity? Is that an original idea? So I feel like it's very hard. I think creativity is fundamental and crucial to being a creator. And I think it has to be involved in every part of the process. If you're just carbon copying somebody, then maybe you're not creating. But as long as you are producing something that came from your brain, whether it was inspired and you're just taking your twist on it, then I think that counts as creativity. And that's where my number comes from, is I think it should ultimately be 50-50 in my brain. I know a lot of people are like, it's 10% creativity, 90%
determination. Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Sweat.
But I do think that creativity it's infused in all of that. Determination,
Yeah.
like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to break determination down, and when you break it down, it's practice, it's recording, it's mixing, it's editing, and creativity is in every part of that process for me.
As well as research, as well as all the other things dealing with being a social media creator.
And and create. I mean, I have to be creative at every step of the way.
Yeah.
Or else it doesn't, even though only 10% of it is maybe me coming up with my part, I don't think that that's where the creativity stops. So I think the number is a lot bigger than anybody really gives creatives credit for.
I think that actually applies to you too. When I think about some of the technical things that you've done as innovations for the products and the things that we do here, as well as the pure creativity of I want a tartan that looks like this. So I think you hit it on the head. That you basically you have to have that. You have to keep that spark going, whatever way you're applying yourself.
Correct. And I would also say my creativity isn't necessarily. My creativity, it tends to be bigger picture type things. And in designing new tartans, or thinking of ways to market different things, or thinking of types of pillars of content, or I don't want to say like I'm not creative in doing interviews. The interviews have been done. It's the reasons why. That's like the fun that I get out of it. So I wouldn't necessarily call that creative, but it's the fun experience of it. And I get enjoyment of the job and creativity of the job through the entire running of a company, and trusting the creatives around me to also perform to a certain level that they're adding to the process. So you're a creative as well. So you're coming up with different ideas and different thoughts, and some of those you're executing, by 100% by yourself not by yourself, but with the team who are also being creative in their own right. And others, it's a collaborative effort. So creativity really informs everything we do, just not in a here's how we're going to make this video. It's all of the things that surround everything, or we're swimming in it.
It's never that clear cut. Can't be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's 100% and 10%.
So it's 110%.
It's 110%.
Just like your
just
weekly
for the
work load.
creative aspect,
Right.
yes.
Exactly.
And now your head explodes.
Yes. It's not supposed to make sense.
Nothing
It can't.
ever
It
does.
can't all the time.
It's abstract. It's art.
Right on, man.
Right on, man.
Any final thoughts?
I'll let the guest go first. Final thoughts.
You shouldn't have done that to
Now,
me.
I don't have any. I have to think of some, which is why I'm allowing you to go first.
Yeah, I'm fully aware. I think ultimately there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that it's impossible to really articulate all of it within however long this has been. But I hope at least, people got to get a glimpse, and people got to see that it's a lot messier than the final product ends up being. It's controlled chaos.
I would say, what's the quote? Be the person that you wanted when you were, to look up to when you were younger, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Aim to be that person, and aim to build something, and aim to put more good in the world and more positivity in the world, because we need more. So that's really what I would, be the takeaway is, out there in the social media lands, be a force for good, period.
And use those tools. They're going to keep changing, but stay on top of the tools so you can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
My final thought will be that I think you two are two of my favorite ducks. You make all this stuff look pretty easy, but obviously you're
Quack.
You're paddling like crazy underneath the surface of the water. So cool.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, everybody, that Allie the Piper, not necessarily Piper Allie. Allie the Piper is on all the platforms all the freaking time.
It's true.
Almost sorta. So you can find her anywhere and find out what she's up to next and where she will be, because touring is going to be an increasing activity of yours in the next few years. So you can actually we can catch you live.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you liked this interview, if you like this discussion, there is more Haggis Hunting, as well as other podcast type things that we are doing here at Kilts Culture / USA Kilts Incorporated
/ Haggis Hunting podcast.
Super mega studios.
Yes, mega
activities.
corporation. Yes,
taking over the world one kilt at a time. So
absolutely.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. Much appreciated. Take
Till
care.
next time.
Bye.
Slanjava.
Slanjava.
Slanjava. You looked at me like I had to say it.
Slanjava.
Well,
Slanjava.
now it's just awkward.
Well, I know. I said bye. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Please leave comments below if you have any additional things that you want to add. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to USA Kilts because it helps them out a ton, and I give them my seal of approval. Please do it. And then you can find me on my socials as well at piper.alley, and I'm sure I'll see you guys again.